This is LawTube's 9/11, chat. I'll coin that now. YouTube's 9/11. The big 10,000-pound gorilla in the room. Nick Rekieta was arrested today. And I know for a lot of you people are going to, all the jokes aside, he was actually arrested today. He was booked into the Candioi County Jail. And we'll start with that because that's the first thing we know. And you know what? And the way I'm looking at this, guys, what we're going to try to do here is I'm going to try to treat this like it's me dealing with, like, if you called me and said, hey, my friend or my cousin or somebody is in jail, what do we do? Well, you start off by telling me, like, who are they? Where are they at? What happened? And sometimes I don't know any of that information other than their name. And I said, okay, well, what city was he arrested by? And they'll tell me, like, oh, was arrested by, like, the Painesville police. Okay, so I know it's like the Lake County, Ohio jail. Or they might say, oh, the Shaker Heights police arrested him. Okay, so he's downtown in Cuyahoga County jail. And I start from there trying to figure out what's going on. Because from there, I could figure out some basic information. Especially if they just got arrested. I mean, that's all we have. And now we don't, well, what happened? What did they get arrested for? Well, we actually have that. And that information is here at the Candioi County Jail. And these are their in custodies as of 1949 hours. So as of 7:49, 10 till 8 Central Time, here's who's in custody. Now, there's a bunch of people, so we get all the way down to where things are. And, obviously, Nick has been arrested. So has his wife, Kayla. And then April Imholte from Seal Toe Morning Show has been arrested as well. Now, if you notice, these guys all, like, what are their charges now? And that's where you start with. You start with what are their charges? Yeah. So what do we start with? Well, you start with, like, okay, what are the charges here? And the basic charge, the first charge is court pending. Now, these are just the basic charges they were arrested on. This doesn't mean what they're eventually going to formally be charged with in a charging complaint or an indictment or whatever it is down the road. This is just what they got arrested on. So let's start with that. And as cop says, all suspects are innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. And that's true for them as well. So what do we know about Nick and Kayla? They both have companion charges. All right. So he was charged with violating Minnesota statute 152.025.2, subsection 1. Well, what is that? What does that actually mean? Well, we can figure that out pretty quick. So what is Minnesota statutes? Well, 152.025 is controlled substances and crime in the 5th degree. We'll get to what 5th degree means in a second. So a person is guilty of a controlled substance in the 5th degree. And like I said, guys, we're going to break it down. This is how I break it down. And obviously, if I found all this out and I saw this in Ohio, I wouldn't have to, like, read through this. But if you called me, here's what I tell you. It's guilty of a controlled substance crime in the 5th degree. Maybe sentence is provided. Okay. But it's not a sale issue. So we can skip this part, right? We can go, yep, doesn't matter. But what can we then move on to? We could then move on to the possession and other crimes. So you don't have to panic about the first part. A person's guilty of a controlled substance crime in the 5th degree if they unlawfully possessed one or more mixtures containing a controlled substance classified in Schedule 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, what is 1, 2, 3, or 4? Well, most states just literally copy the federal schedule. So that's going to be the issue there. That doesn't mean, going back to what Nick and Kayla have, that doesn't mean they're looking at, he had a possession 1 drug, a Schedule 2 drug, a Schedule 3 drug, and a Schedule 4. All this is saying he had, like, 1 or more parts of these. Maybe it was a Schedule 2, maybe it's a Schedule 3, maybe it's a combination of 2 or 3. I mean, like, I will say, going back to that show, based on my experience dealing with clients, yeah, the way he reacted and the way he kind of took off like a rocket at one point it's probably some stimulant in there. Well, the scary thing about that is, depending on what he was using, and let's just presume he was riding the White Stallion, doing a little bit of that cocaina, that yayo, the snow. He was skiing, nose beers, whatever you want to call it, booger sugar. The scary part about that is cocaine is not pure cocaine. That's like a 1980s thing. You're not going to get pure cocaine. You're going to get cocaine with something in it. And one of the very common things they put in a lot of times is, like meth or, fentanyl, which, like none of that's good. They put in all kinds of stuff. They use gasoline to help distill cocaine. So if you're snorting coke, you're ingesting petrochemicals as well. So it could be a combination of any of this stuff. So who knows? Who knows what it is? I don't think it involves anything involving, and just based on the way Nick has been, and he's talked about using drugs, I don't think there's any issue about him attempting to procure or possessing a controlled substance through any of the following means. And by this part here, like fraud, deceit, misrepresentation, subterfuge, using a false name or giving false credit, or falsely assuming the title of. This is all like stealing pharmaceutical drugs. So I don't think any of this applies to Nick. I really think it's just based on what they've cited. It's up here at the top. It's this stuff. He did something. He possessed something. I don't know what yet. And Garrett says, you'd be nuts to trust coke any of these days. Yeah, I mean, how many clients I've had where they're like, I was snorting a rail and then I OD'd. It's like, no shit. And they're like, well, whoops. And I'm like, yeah, that's a whoops. That's a whoops. That happens a lot. And they're like, oops. They're like, well, how did that happen? I'm like, well, and they're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Now, ultimately, I'm like I said, I'm not here to laugh. How is this going to work for him? Well, we'll get to the next parts. Like, how did he get arrested? I don't know. Did the police respond to a call for service? Maybe. Maybe there was a call for like domestic violence. Maybe there was a call for a disorderly conduct. Maybe there was a welfare check called. Maybe some A-log dropped a dime. Now, do I think somebody like this ended up being like I don't know. I mean, the police could have hit the house and put a warrant together and then raided the house. We don't really know. There's no knowledge of this yet. So we're kind of in the dark ultimately about what the charges are. And then I know a lot of people are saying, well, what type of things is he facing? Well, those were 5th degree felonies. It's a potential maximum of up to 5 years in prison. He could, he's facing a couple years in prison on that. Now, here's the deal. That's the worst case scenario. It's faced up to 5 years, in prison or jail and a fine of up to $10,000. Does that mean he's going to get it? No, that's the worst case scenario. Does that mean like Nick's not going to make license plates at the state pen? That ain't happening. People are bringing up, could the cops have been watching his streams? Very likely. That's why you don't do fucking illegal things on TV. As Stringer Bell has frequently said,
Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? What the fuck is you thinking, man?
I mean, that also applies to just like, don't document your fucking crimes. I mean, this right here, guys, it's a big tattle machine, but this thing right here, you guys, it's an even bigger tattle machine. So don't do it. Don't do it. I highly recommend you don't do it. I really recommend you don't do it. So what happens from here? Well, we got to get to the second crime first. I know you guys want to know that. The second crime he got charged with, and if we go back to what he got charged with, it is 6.24.713.1, possessing ammo or firearms users have controlled. That means, and we'll kind of skip to it here, it's certain persons not to possess firearms. The following, and it says ineligible persons. The following persons shall not be entitled to possess ammunition or a pistol or semi-automatic military-style assault weapon. Remember, this is Minnesota, where the Farm Labor Union is the name for the Democratic Party. They're fucking wackos out there. Except for Clause 1, any other firearm. So Clause 1 talks about people under the age of 18 who are may possess it if they're in the actual presence of an adult, if it's for military drill, purposes of instruction, on a firing range, and all these other things that are out there. Okay, cool. We don't have to worry about that. That's not what he's charged with. We have to get down to the bottom. Part 10. A person who was convicted in any court by a crime punishable by a term exceeding 1 year. Nope. Fugitive justice. Nope. If you guys are looking through this all right here, this looks like 18 USC 922G. It is. Is the unlawful user of any controlled substance is defined in Chapter 152. Huh. We just looked at Chapter 152. That's the drug statute in Minnesota. So that's why. So there you go. And from what I can tell, that's another 5th degree felony. A felony in the 5th degree. You know, somebody like Bruce Rivers knows it's better than I do. There's other attorneys out there that know better than I do. But yeah, he's looking at a lot of time. This isn't good. Drugs and guns are never a good mix. Now, the funny thing is, from what we can tell, when Nick goes like has displayed his guns before, his like the 2 guns he owns, he has to like go somewhere and get them, so they're locked up and safe. But still, they're under his possession, his control, his possession is exerting dominion over an item. So even though they're locked up, he has the safe, he has the access, he's got the codes, so he's possessing them. And Kayla lives in the house. It's her house. She has access to that safe. She's possessing them. April is not. You guys notice April was only charged with possessing drugs because she doesn't have, that's not her house. She's not, they probably don't presume she has dominion over the guns. So that's why she's there. Now, what's all this mean for them? Well, they're looking, yeah, is it a bullshit gun charge? Yeah. And Christine says, what drugs? I don't know what drugs they are. Nick's talked about doing Molly before, and, an MDMA, ecstasy. I mean, when he came out, he had stuff on his nose. So some sort of drug he was snorting. I don't know. Cocaine, fentanyl, meth. I mean, I doubt it was fentanyl because he like fired up, but like Adderall, like any number of prescriptions or things that were illegally obtained. Who knows what it is? I don't know, but they charged him with it. So that's presumably what it is. Something. I just don't know. Yes, Bruce. Yes, Bruce Rivers, the criminal lawyer. Yes. And when you're on stream with stuff on your nose, I consider that self-snitching too. So gotta stop. So what happens from here? Well, the next step. Okay, we know what he's charged with. We know what he's facing. Well, now he's in jail. He has to go to court. Okay, where is he going to go to court? Well, from what I understand about Minnesota, it's Candioi County, and they have a district court. And Wilmar, Minnesota is just down the road from Nick. And from what I can tell here, and this is, guys, this is what I'm going off of based on my, every state is different. So like district court has original jurisdiction in all civil, family, probate, juvenile, criminal, traffic cases filed in a county. We don't do that in Ohio. That's a completely different system. So presumably he's going to be here dealing with this court. Now, I don't know what judge he's going to be in front of. I assume there's probably not too many judges. It's a very rural county. But when's he going? I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is I looked up their court doc for the date range of 5/23 to 5/30. This is for the next 7 days. Obviously, this is subject to change, but for right now, this is what they've got. Category civil, criminal. Okay. And if we scroll down right now in the R's, nothing. Okay. Well, that doesn't mean a whole lot for us. I will say this is a bit of an issue because, Nick says he doesn't like this judge, and that's Judge Fisher on his case of Monty. So it's like, oh boy. Hopefully he hasn't seen any of the streams lately. But going back to the feed here of the court, they talk about the calendars posted at 7 a.m. each day and updated hourly throughout the day. So I don't know. I'd say starting at 7 a.m. tomorrow, you might know whether or not Nick is going to court or not. He's going to be subject to an arraignment. Oh, why did this not show up here? Okay. So, God, I boomered it, didn't you? So he's going to be subject to an arraignment. But I don't know what's going to happen because right now, searching through this is the alpha roster for Candioi County. He's not on it, but that makes sense. He literally just got arrested today. The police have to finish filing their charges. They probably worked on it throughout the day. Was taken to the clerk of court. Could he be in front of the judge tomorrow? Sure. You'd like to think so because otherwise he might sit for a little while. I don't know if they do weekend, like because it's a 3-day weekend, they might do a Saturday court. I doubt in a place like that they do. But he could be sitting all weekend, could be sitting until next week. And then it becomes an issue of what kind of, bond is he going to get? Well, it's Minnesota, so I think probably as of right now, I don't think Minnesota has removed cash bail. They were trying to remove it, but even then, if they did, from what I understand, it was meaning of misdemeanor level offenses. For Nick, that's not where he's at right now. Does that mean he's going to get like $100,000 bond or something crazy? No, not at this point. These are, relatively speaking, these are low level offenses. What would I say if I were like representing Nick right now? I'd be like, Your Honor, good morning. These are low level offenses. They're not offenses of violence. My client has no criminal record. Nick has no criminal record outside this. Neither is Kayla. Like, they have no criminal record. They have a home. My client is employed. He's self-employed. He runs his own business. They have a place to stay. They are members here in the community. They're not a flight risk. Yeah, I presumably he'd get some sort of personal recognizance bond or a very, very, very low cash bond. I would presume a recognizance bond. That would make a lot of sense here to have him say like $50,000. Bam. Yeah, he's well established in the community. All kinds of stuff. I don't think that's going to happen to him. I would presume so. We'll get to the kids in a second, guys. And yeah, 11 2 times. That's why I said Tuesday. Monday's a holiday. Monday's Memorial Day. So guess what? Courts ain't open. I don't go to court. I don't, can't file nothing. So ain't nothing happening here. I presume he gets some sort of personal recognizance bond or an OR bond or an ROR bond, whatever you want to call it. He could probably get out of jail without having to front any money. And even if he does, it's, his family, like the family will be able to put some money together. They'll probably be allowed to post 10% with the court. I assume you can do that in Minnesota. At the very least, you only go to a bondsman to get money. That's not going to be an issue of getting him out. What's going to happen though? There's going to be pre-trial release conditions. He's going to be, at his arraignment, he can enter a plea not guilty. Cool. He's going to be told he can't associate with co-defendants. That's a little bit different because him and Kayla are married and they share a house and they're presumably together. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe Kayla goes and hangs, like her family's in the area. I don't know what they'll do. But certainly April is going to get told you can't fucking go back because she was there. They're going to tell her go the fuck somewhere else. But the judge will probably say, like, other than your wife, you're to have no contact with any defendants. You refrain from any drugs or alcohol, especially alcohol. They might have him report to pretrial services because this is a drug case. So he might have to drug test. And I don't know how they do it in Candioi County. They might put a scram, like one of those bracelets on his leg that can detect alcohol. They might put him on you got to call every day. You've got a color and you have to call and see if your color's up. I don't know what their pretrial release system is currently. So a lot of this is in the air. What's going to happen. From there, what about their kids? I don't know where this happened at. Presumably this happened at their house. And I just mentioned that because it looks like he's not charged with like an OVI offense. It doesn't sound like it was like in the news, like a crash or anything like that. So the police showed up, they arrested Nick and Kayla, and they're going to say like, okay, well, what about your kids? Now, even the kids who are like 16 years old are under, the state has to figure out what's going to happen with them. So they probably said to Nick and Kayla, hey, who can watch these kids? Who can take them right now? Someone has to come get them. I know Kayla's family's in the area. I know Nick's family. I know his like parents snowbird, but they come back up in the summer, so they might be in town. They both have family in the area, and they said okay because otherwise the county has to pick him up and put him somewhere. Now, presumably, CPS came and was like sitting with the kids, making sure they're all okay, and then Nick's family or Kayla's family picked them up because they're going to look for kinship placement. That's the first place you go is kinship placement. Can someone take care of these kids right now? So those kids are going to be with somebody. And given the fact there's allegations of drug use in the home and who knows what else is being alleged, the kids are not going to be allowed to be in home with Nick and Kayla. So there's probably going to be a child services case, which in Ohio, when you take all of this, and guys, nothing I'm saying here is harming any of my clients. This is just literally how this all goes. Um, they have a right to they're your children. They have a right for a hearing on that. So in Ohio, we call this a shelter care hearing. The children were taken ex parte, meaning they probably went to a judge, and the judge said, a juvenile court judge, and the judge is like, holy shit, yeah, you can take those kids from the home. This ain't good. CPS check. And the children's services may have temporary custody of them, and they're being watched by family. I don't know how that's how it would work here in Ohio. I assume it's probably something similar in Minnesota. There's some sort of custody issue going on, and Nick and Kayla probably are going to have a children's services case opened up on them soon, and they're going to have a juvenile court case to deal with, all these allegations. And how's that going to mesh with the criminal case? Well, that becomes an issue of, their criminal rights are going to supersede the issues going on there, so things might get put on hold. But yeah, for right now, they're probably going to, if they get released, they're going to be going home to a house without kids in it. And it's not like they can go back and say, take the kids and bring them back home. If that happens, CPS is coming right away. So that ain't happening. Yeah, scram tethers are pretty neat how and what they will detect. Yeah, basically a scram unit, guys, is something you attach to your leg, and it's literally it looks like a GPS monitor, and it detects the sweat. And here's the thing, you're always sweating, you're always perspiring. It's just like in microscopic amounts, and it can detect the alcohol being released through your body because it off gases basically in a way. It's kind of weird. It's super weird, but it works, and it can detect when you're using. So, yeah. Now, who called? Like I said, I don't know. If it was somebody involved who made the call, fine. If it's Aaron, whoever, I just hope it wasn't an A-log because, yeah, I just don't like that. No one likes that. No one likes that at all. No one likes that at all. Now let's get through that. They've been through the arraignment. They have their bond. What's going to happen? Well, presumably this is felony level activity. There's gonna be felony charges. Maybe it stays misdemeanor. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know what's happened because remember the police screw up all the time. So something may happen, something may change. They may look at this case and say, if these guys are first time offenders, maybe we'll make these misdemeanors. I don't know. For right now, we can't presume that. Let's just presume the normal process. This will get presented to a grand jury. They might get indicted via an information. And these aren't the only charges they may face. There might be multiple counts of controlled substances issues being alleged. They have 5 children. In Ohio, that's 5 counts of felony child endangering. So that could happen to them. I don't know. I don't know how that normally happens in Minnesota, but that could very well happen to them. Nick is getting these drugs. Like they're getting these drugs from somewhere. So now you've got trafficking issues, and conspiracy to commit trafficking. And who knows what else they're doing as far as all this is concerned. There's a lot of things that could be charged here that we simply don't know yet that would likely be applicable. There's a lot of things here. Now, what do I think is going to happen? I mean, that's what I think is going to happen. That basically that whole timeline is what I've just run through. So that's about all I can say. That's about all I can say here. As far as what do I hope happens? Well, I hope for Nick, like I said this, I keep saying it. I hope he gets better. I really do. I've said that the entire time. Whatever the hell it is, I hope he gets it figured out. Now, what's going to happen from here? For a lot of people, getting caught is a godsend because it gives them a chance. Like, oh my God, I really am fucking up. I need to focus. Like, oh, I don't have a problem. The criminal justice system, the state of Minnesota says, actually, you do. And maybe this gives them a chance because a lot of people won't get better till they crash and burn. Or now they've got the full force of the government hanging over their head. So we'll see. Now, there might be intervention programs, there might be diversion programs. A lot of things may be accessible to them because they are first-time offenders. I don't know about any of that. I don't know specifically how that's done. I don't know, is their prosecutor's office, are they cool about that? Are the judges in that county cool about that? It really all depends. But there's a million different ways this can go, guys. Stacy says reason for a search warrant. Who knows if there was a search warrant? They could have shown up to a domestic violence issue and they come in the house and they found drugs. Or somebody saying, oh, there's drugs. He's got drugs. She's got drugs. And people start arguing with each other. That could happen. The kids could have called 911. There could have been an overdose. There's a million different ways this could have gone. Or the guy who brings them drugs. The police were following him, caught him, busted him. I don't know. There are a million ways this could have happened. A million ways this could have happened. Like I just had a client where I'm dealing with. He got busted for having like a bag full of Xanax pills and like 50 grams of meth. And what happened to him? Well, the police only found out about it because they caught him out in the street howling like a dog because he'd taken a bunch of drugs and was having a bad trip on him. And that's the only reason why the police found that this guy was even involved in drug trafficking. So sometimes it's a really stupid thing. Sometimes it's a very common thing that happens. I'm just telling you, we have no idea other than he's in the Huskow right now. What's going to happen from here for like Nick's lawsuit? Well, I mean, certainly this is probably going to throw a wrench in the system a little bit, but not too bad. I mean, he's charged with, he's being sued for defamation. Now, I mean, that obviously that's the least of his problems. Nick's facing 10 years, his poor kids. Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's who the real losers are right now. Their mom and dad, I mean, yeah, their mom and dad may not have been doing the best taking care of them, but like getting the police showing up and yanking mom and dad out of the house, likely in cuffs, is not anywhere from 6 to 16. That's rough on any kid. It's rough on any kid. And Skook is saying, let's not forget our principles just because we dislike the guy. The charges are 100% bullshit. They very well could be. They very well could be. I mean, remember, charges are just words on piece. Like, tell my clients all the time. You come in, you slap an indictment on my table. It's like, oh, they charge me with something. I'm like, that's cool. That's words on paper. But I do think I will say, the idea that he isn't using any drugs of any kind, I think is probably far-fetched. But should he have been charged with this? Who knows? I don't think so. Well, we'll see. Amateur Iconoclast says, don't worry, y'all. Nick is from the mean streets of Houston. He'll do fine in jail. Yeah. Yes. Muralist says, body cam footage when? Well, body cam footage, charging documents. While we're doing Karen Reed tomorrow, I'll be working on some of that, okay? I'll see what we can get. Big Happy says, I wonder what we'll talk about tonight. Now, I will say I am going to make fun of Nick for one thing. And it's this. Like, of all the things to wear when you get arrested, like, you're wearing that cringy Jamaica tank top. Like, that's the only thing I'm like, come on, Nick. Like, I can't believe you keep wearing that shirt because it's just awful. But why do we got to wear that? Other than that, it is what it is. Janet says, do you think Judge Fisher will preside over Nick's case? Judge Fisher's one of the judges in that county, so possibly, yeah. Talk shit. Judge is not the best idea. Not well advised. And Raging Bull for $20, thank you, is saying, sorry, but I just want to interject. dang, Nick's essentially got a KD of 8-0, ruined his life, his wife's life, his side chick, and all 5 of his kids. Bravo, Nick. No one in the sector is going to be able to top that. I mean, yeah. Yes, this is a monumental felting. I mean, this is the raking of rakings. And yes, overall, Nick has speed ran the disaster tract for online personalities. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. That is what it is. Base Shaman says Rekieta is the Jack Murphy of LawTube. He's done. That's a shame. Is saying it was CPS. Mark my words. I tend to think so. CPS probably got an anonymous complaint, but we'll see. I mean, that could have been the issue too. CPS shows up. They've got a police officer with them, and from there, shit cut loose. I just don't. We just don't know. Pepsi Man says, "I wish Rekieta a million rehab jail sentences." Well, yeah. And Economass says, as Barnes always tells us, never in writing, always in cash. Yep. Audrey Silva says he uses Provigil, which is Schedule 4. It might be a stretch charge. It very well could be. I will, like I said, I will just say the way he got kickstarted in the middle of the stream, that ain't Provigil from what I can tell. But yeah, it very well could be if they charge him for that. We'll see. I mean, but he also might not have prescription for it. That's the other thing. If you don't have a script for it, that's it's Minnesota drug court with diversion. Very true. That's more than likely the outcome. The idea of him going away forever, that doesn't happen on your first time through. Not on something like this. If it was something with a mandatory offense or something really heinous, sure, but that ain't gonna happen here. Even if he pled guilty right off the rip, that ain't happening. But I agree with you. Drug court or something, diversion, even if there wasn't diversion and there wasn't drug court, some sort of intense supervision and probation would be the game. You're not going to prison for this stuff. Now, if you fuck up probation or you fuck up diversion, whole nother story. Enrique the Squirrel says it's true he might get 10 years. I mean, worst case scenario. And here's the deal. No attorney can tell you oh, it's like a no % chance. Is it like a 0.1% chance he could go to prison? Yeah, right now. Facts may change. But as of May 23rd, is he going to prison? 0.1% chance that could happen. I can't tell you no, because I'd be lying. Because I can't guarantee you that. Sleazy says it's all Jersh's fault. Yes. Curse you, Moon! This may help his family. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Now, the other thing is I'll point out when you get to these children's services cases, guys, when I've represented people, because I take these on appointment, because I think people are entitled to the best defense possible because, yeah, the county a lot of times wrongly takes children and they can't afford attorneys anyway. So I take those cases and I get paid the court appointed, whatever it is for that county. I explain to these parents, you're looking at, unless we prove it's all bullshit, you don't get your kids back right away. If you do have a problem, you're looking at a minimum of 12 months before your kids are back in the home and children's services is fucked off. And that's on the short end. 12 to 18 months is the trajectory of that. So that's the trajectory they should be looking at right now. So he's playing 4D chess. Well, you're not supposed to eat the pieces when you're doing it. I fear he will cope and see this rather than be honest. I don't know when Nick can be honest, sadly. I mean, it's like I said, guys, when people are in addiction, and a lot of you probably know this because you've had family and friends and maybe yourself dealing with it, until you're ready to fix it, it's not going to get fixed. And, as of last night, Nick wasn't ready to fix it. So it's up to him. As a wise man once told me, a man does what a man wants to do. A man does what a man wants to do. And it's up to Nick to decide what he wants to do. If I had to put money on what happened, I bet it was some sort of children's services issue got called. I have other theories, like a second place and a third place theory, but based on what they have not been charged with, I don't think those will pan out. Who was the other woman that was arrested? Oh, LC. April Imholte was the other half of a YouTube production called Steel Toe Morning Show, currently run by her husband. There's an entire set of lore that's gone on in the past 3 months. But basically, it sounds like April's been hanging out with the Rekietas, doing drugs and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'll leave it at that.